The static was endless, a sound like a wounded ocean, whispering through broken frequencies. Lira had lived with that noise for years, the endless hum of dead transmissions on her old orbital station. Once her kind filled the stars with songs and laughter. Now only the machines remembered, and her. She floated through the dim corridors, pale blue lights flickering over her silver skin and tired eyes. The air recycler coughed again, and another warning she ignored. There was no one left to fix it until one night. The static changed, a faint rhythm. Not random. Not machine noise. A pattern. Then a voice. "Hello, is anyone receiving? This is Human Colony Transport Odyssey. My name is Eli. If anyone's out there, please respond." Lira froze. Her pulse skipped. Human. That word was old, a myth her ancestors once spoke about. The species that reached beyond their world, then vanished in the great silence. She hesitated, hands trembling over the comm switch. Could it be real? Or another echo of the past? "Hello?" The voice repeated, soft, tired, full of something she hadn't heard in centuries, hope. Her throat tightened. Slowly she pressed the button. "This is Lira, I hear you." Silence. Then a shaky laugh. "Oh, thank God you're real. I thought I was talking to ghosts." Lira's lips curled in a faint smile. "You might be. What are you doing on this frequency?" "I don't know. My ship's navigation failed during jump transit. Everyone else didn't make it. I rerouted power to the comm array. Been broadcasting for days. You're the first voice I've heard." His words carried exhaustion but also warmth. A human warmth that made something ache inside her. She turned toward the observation window. A black sky filled with shattered satellites and forgotten ships. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "This sector is dead." "Guess that makes two of us," he said quietly. Lira looked down. Her fingers brushed the console, dust rising in the low gravity. "You're alone then?" "Yeah, just me. And the stars." For a long moment neither spoke. Only the soft hum of two dying machines connected across impossible distance. Then Lira asked, "What's it like?" "Your world? Earth?" He chuckled faintly. It was blue, full of oceans. The air smelled of rain after storms. You could stand under sunlight and feel it warm your skin. Lira closed her eyes, imagining. She had never seen an ocean. Her planet had turned to ash before she was born. "We used to have skies like that," she murmured. "Now only dust." "You sound lonely," she smiled sadly. "That makes us both ghosts then, human." He laughed again, a real laugh this time. "Then maybe two ghosts can keep each other company." Lira's heart skipped. She didn't know why. She adjusted the comm gain and listened closer to his breathing through the static. It sounded steady, human, alive. She hadn't realized how much she missed that sound. The rhythm of another life. "So, Lira," he said after a pause, "what's it like being the last of your kind?" She looked at the cracked reflection in her monitor. Heavy, like carrying a song no one remembers the words to. "Maybe I can help you remember," Eli said softly. Her throat tightened. No one had spoken to her like that. Not in years, not with such gentle humanity. For hours they talked. About the stars. About music. About silence. Eli described constellations as if he were painting them with words, and Lira listened, drawing them on her station walls with light pens until her room glowed like a human night sky. "If we're both trapped," he said finally, voice quiet, "maybe we can make the stars less lonely together." Lira touched the console. For the first time in decades, she didn't feel cold. The transmission flickered again, but this time she wasn't afraid. She knew the signal might fade tomorrow, but tonight, across the endless dark, two broken hearts had found each other, and somewhere beyond the dying static, the universe listened. The next few days became something Lira never imagined possible again. Peaceful. Every cycle, she waited by the comm station, counting the seconds until the soft hum turned into that familiar static crackle, followed by his voice. "Good morning, ghost girl," Eli would say playfully. "It's not morning here," she'd reply, smiling. "Our sun died long ago. Then I'll send you mine." It was a simple exchange, but in those words lived warmth, something deeper than light itself. Lira began to repair parts of the communication array she'd long ignored. She rerouted old power cells, reconnected antennas. For the first time in years, she worked. not out of duty but for the joy of hearing him again. Eli, on his end, was surviving on minimal oxygen and ration bars. Yet he never complained. Instead, he told stories of oceans and trees that danced in the wind, of children chasing birds through fields, of laughter echoing through city streets under blue skies. Lira listened as if he were describing a dream from another universe. Sometimes she'd close her eyes and pretend she was there, walking beside him barefoot on soft green grass she'd never felt. When it was her turn, she told him about her people, the Vayari, a race that once built living cities and sang to the stars to power their ships. But pride destroyed them. Wars drained their skies, leaving her the last song in an empty hall. "So you're a singer?" he asked one day. "Not anymore," she said softly. "Songs are meant to be heard." "Then sing for me," Eli whispered. At first she refused. Her voice had forgotten melody. But when she finally sang, it wasn't a performance, it was a confession. A trembling echo that carried grief, hope, and all the love her people had lost. Her song filled the static between them, rising through broken frequencies like starlight through fog. Eli didn't speak until the last note faded. "Lira," he said quietly. "I saw the stars move," she laughed, a sound like silver chimes. "That's impossible." "No," he said. "I swear the way you sang, it felt like the universe was listening." From then on, they shared everything. Lira sent holographic patterns, swirling orbs of alien art she crafted from data streams. Eli replied with sound, recordings of rain he'd stored in his pod's memory banks, the gentle rhythm of droplets hitting metal. Sometimes they talked until her station's power failed. Sometimes they said nothing, just listened to each other breathe across galaxies. One night his voice trembled. "Lira, do you ever wonder if we're just talking to echoes?" She paused. The thought had haunted her too. "Maybe we are," she said. "But if an echo can heal what's broken, does it matter if it's real?" Eli didn't answer right away. Then came his quiet chuckle. "You're wiser than anyone I've ever met," Lira smiled faintly. "And you're far too human for your own good." But beneath their laughter, she felt a shadow. Her station's life support readings were dropping faster now. The radiation storms around the dead planet grew stronger every day. She hid the data from him, not wanting to worry him. Instead, she focused on creating something beautiful. She began building what she called the memory wall. Each time Eli spoke of something he loved, oceans, moonlight, rain, she turned it into glowing imagery across her metal walls using light scripts. Soon, her dark room became a living painting of his world. Blue seas, golden skies, and drifting clouds. Eli's stories had given her color again. In return, she sent him an encoded visual file, a holographic model of herself, smiling faintly. "So you'll remember what I looked like," she said shyly. He opened the file and laughed softly. "You're beautiful," he said. "But you forgot one thing." "What?" "Your eyes. You didn't color them." "Then imagine them," she whispered. "I already do." Her heart ached at that. The kind of ache that felt human. Days passed. Their transmissions grew weaker, but their connection stronger. Each word mattered more. Each silence hurt deeper. One night as they talked about nothing and everything, Lira whispered, "Eli, if one day you can't hear me, promise me you'll still talk." "Why?" "Because maybe the stars listen better than we think." He laughed gently. "You sound like someone who knows something I don't." She smiled through tears. "Maybe I just believe more than I should." The lights flickered across her station, another storm warning. But she didn't care. She sat before the console listening to his fading voice, her hand resting on the comm panel like a heartbeat. Across the void, Eli said, "Good night, Lira." "Good night, human." And in that silence between worlds, both forgot what loneliness felt like. The storm began without warning. At first it was only static, small, harmless like dust in sunlight. Then came the interference. Sharp bursts of distortion cutting through Lira's comm system like claws. The entire station trembled, lights flickering as the radiation wave from the dying sun rolled through space. She rushed to stabilize the antenna. Sparks flew as she rerouted power, sweat glistening on her silver skin. Her hands shook, not from fear but from something worse. She might lose him. "Eli," she called out, voice breaking. "Lira, I can barely hear you." The signal flickered in and out, each syllable like a ghost's whisper. "Don't move. Stay safe." Then silence. Lira stared at the dark console. The empty channel felt like a wound. For the first time since meeting him, the stars sounded hollow again. Hours passed before the signal returned, faint, trembling. "Lira, you there?" Her heart leapt. "I'm here." The storm hit the upper satellites. I thought I lost you," he said. His voice was strained but alive. Relief washed over her like a forgotten sunrise. But even as they spoke, she could hear the distortion, a reminder that time was running out. That night, she didn't tell him the truth. Her power levels were critical. The radiation storms that now surrounded her world were destroying her orbit. Every hour, her systems degraded further. But if he knew, he'd worry. He might even try to reach her, so she lied. "Just a minor power fluctuation," she told him. "I'll fix it." "You're sure?" "I've lived through worse," she said softly. But deep inside, she knew this time was different. Over the next few days, their transmissions grew weaker. Sometimes she would wait hours before his signal broke through. Other times she would only catch fragments, his voice echoing through broken data streams. "Lira, I can't sleep. The stars look different without your voice." "Then listen to the silence," she replied. "It's where we meet when the signal fails." He laughed quietly. "You always sound like a poet." She smiled, though her eyes burned with tears. "Poetry is just truth dressed in music." The fourth night was the worst. Half her systems had shut down. The oxygen filters barely worked. The air felt thick and cold. Still, she turned on the transmitter. The signal came, faint, fading, but it was him. "Eli, I'm here. How bad is your ship?" "Bad," he said honestly. "Oxygen's running low, but I've got something better than air." "And what's that?" "You," she laughed weakly, tears falling onto the console. "That's the most human thing you've ever said, and the truest." But the storm worsened. The comm lights blinked red, and then the signal began to distort again. "Lira, listen, it happens." "Eli, you're breaking up. Repeat." "I said, I'll keep talking until you hear me again." The static swallowed his voice. She slammed her hands on the console. "No, no, no, no." For hours she tried to trace the signal again, adjusting the frequency, boosting the relay power. The effort drained her last reserves of energy. Finally, she slumped against the chair, breathing heavily. She was shaking, not from exhaustion, but from heartbreak. "Eli," she whispered into the dead calm. "Please don't stop talking, please." Her words echoed back in static. That night, she dreamed of his world, blue skies and endless oceans, and the sound of his laughter carried by wind she had never felt. Days blurred together. She began recording messages for him, hoping one might reach across the void. "Eli, if you can hear me, I want you to know. You made me remember what it meant to live. Don't stop looking at the stars. One of them still remembers your name. If my voice fades, promise me you'll tell someone we existed." Her words grew weaker with each recording, but she never stopped. Even as her oxygen ran thin, even as the lights dimmed, even as her world's gravity began to pull her station down. One final storm was coming. She could see it outside, golden and violent like fire devouring the heavens. When the interference cleared briefly, she heard him again. His voice was faint, filled with static, but it was him. "Lira, I'm not giving up. I'll find you, somehow." "No," she whispered. "You'll live. That's enough for me. I don't want to live without you." "Then carry me with you," she said softly. "In every star you see." The transmission wavered. "Lira, promise." "I promise." Then the storm roared and his voice vanished forever. She stared at the empty screen, her reflection flickering in the glass. A lone alien girl in a dying world, clutching a voice that once made her feel human. She whispered through the static that remained. "Even if you can't hear me anymore, I'll still be listening." Outside, lightning danced across the black sky, painting her lonely station in golden fire. And far away, a human boy whispered to the stars, unaware she still heard him, through the silence. The end began quietly. No explosion. No alarm, just silence. Lira woke to find the hum of her station gone. The faint vibrations she had lived with all her life, gone. The power cores were nearly empty, and the emergency lights glowed weakly like dying candles. Her breath fogged the air. The temperature had dropped below freezing. Still, she smiled. She had one task left. She sat down in front of the communication console, the same place she'd first heard his voice. The panels were cracked, wires exposed, but one small red light still blinked. Transmit ready. Lira touched it gently, her fingers trembling. Recording. Begin, she whispered. Her voice came out soft but steady, echoing faintly in the cold metal chamber. Eli, if you're hearing this, it means I couldn't keep my promise. The storms have eaten this orbit. My station is falling into the atmosphere. I can see the glow outside and it's beautiful. She turned her head toward the window. The dead planet below burned with golden clouds and lightning veins that stretched across the horizon like cracked glass. Do you know something, Eli? I used to be afraid of endings. My people taught me to fight them, to pretend they weren't coming, but now, I think endings are just new songs waiting to begin. She smiled faintly, her silver eyes glowing against the darkness. You told me about oceans once, how the waves touched everything before returning home. Maybe I'm just a wave now. The lights flickered again. The console beeped, power dropping. She only had a few minutes left. Eli, you gave me something no one else did. You made me remember laughter. You made me feel seen. For someone who's never touched me, you held me tighter than my whole world ever did. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. If you ever doubt yourself, remember this. Somewhere in the ashes of a forgotten world, an alien girl once waited for your voice. And it saved her. The transmission stuttered, but she pressed on. Promise me you'll live, Eli. See your oceans again. Touch your sky. And when you look up at the night and think of me. Her hand hovered over the send key. Transmission complete, blinked the screen faintly. Goodbye, human, she whispered. Thank you for teaching me how to be alive. Then softly, like a prayer. Always. She pressed the button. A faint hum filled the room as the message began its long journey into the stars. Outside, her station drifted lower, caught in the gravity well of the dead planet. Pieces of the structure began to tear away, scattering like metallic petals across the dark sky. Lira sat back in her chair, feeling the vibrations of descent. She wasn't afraid. For the first time in centuries, she felt peace. She closed her eyes and imagined Eli's voice, his laughter, his warmth, the way he said her name like it meant something, and as the hull began to glow from re-entry, she whispered to herself, maybe love doesn't need bodies, maybe it just needs echoes. The station burned brighter, falling like a golden star through the void. Then silence. Light years away in the black emptiness of his drifting ship, Eli stirred awake to a faint signal. Static filled his cabin. Then, a voice. If you're hearing this, his breath caught. Lira? He turned every dial, boosted every frequency, his hands trembling. The message played in fragments, broken by time and distance. You made me remember laughter. You made me feel seen. Eli's eyes filled with tears. His knuckles went white as he gripped the console. No, please don't say goodbye. The transmission continued, her tone calm, beautiful, fading. When you look up at the night, think of me. Always, he whispered, voice cracking. Then, just static. Eli leaned back, staring at the stars through his viewport. His reflection looked hollow, but his heart burned with something fierce and eternal. He whispered into the microphone, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. You're not gone, Lira, not while I'm still talking. He pressed the transmit key and began to speak again. To the silence, to the void, to her. He told her stories of the stars they'd never seen together. He sang the lullaby she once hummed. The universe didn't answer, but he kept talking anyway, because somewhere in the vast dark maybe the stars were still listening. 200 years passed. Worlds rose and fell. Empires faded. The silence of space kept its secrets until one day, a ship belonging to the Galactic Exploration Union drifted into an abandoned sector, a place the charts marked as radio dead. Captain Aaron, a young explorer with restless eyes, sat at the console as her ship's AI detected something unusual. Captain, it said, I've found an ancient signal. Repeating on loop. Origin? Unclear. Estimated to be at least 2 centuries old. The crew exchanged curious looks. Long-range data from dead zones was rare. Patch it through, Aaron ordered. Static filled the speakers and then a faint, broken voice. Eli, if you're hearing this, it means I couldn't keep my promise. The bridge went silent. Every head turned toward the sound. It was the voice of a woman, soft, melodic, aching with emotion. For the next several hours, they worked to clean and decode the transmission. As fragments came together, Lira's story unfolded. Her loneliness, her songs, her conversations with a man named Eli. By the time it ended with always, no one in the room was speaking. Even the hum of the ship felt respectful. Captain Aaron leaned forward. Run a trace. See if this Eli ever existed. The AI processed. Cross-referencing. There is a match. Human name Eli Warren, crew member of the lost transport ship Odyssey, declared missing 206 years ago. Aaron's heart pounded. Wait, are there more messages? Yes, the AI replied. Following her transmission, a continuous broadcast from a different source was detected on the same frequency, overlapping for 73 years. 73 years? Yes, the message repeats the same words. You're not gone, Lira, not while I'm still talking. The crew fell silent again. Even after her death, Eli had kept talking for decades, until his ship finally ran out of power. Their love, their voices, had traveled through centuries of space and still found listeners. Captain Aaron stared at the stars outside her viewport. Record everything. Catalog it under the name the Lira Eli Transmission. Months later, the story spread across the galaxy. At first, scientists treated it as a rare historical anomaly, a relic of lost civilizations. But soon, people began to hear it differently. Musicians wove her final song into symphonies. Poets recited their words under starlight. Lovers exchanged her line as a promise. Maybe love doesn't need bodies. Maybe it just needs echoes. On distant worlds, shrines were built, not to gods, but to voices. At every anniversary of the signal's rediscovery, ships across sectors paused for 1 minute of silence, allowing her voice to play through the intercoms. And somewhere deep in a museum on Nova Prime, 2 small artifacts were displayed side by side, a cracked comm recorder and a black box from the Odyssey. Engraved beneath them was a single phrase. Across the stars, they found each other and made the universe remember. One night, centuries later, a young girl named Mira sat in her dormitory at the Galactic Academy, listening to the original recording for her history project. When Lira's trembling voice whispered always, Mira felt something stir inside her, that same ache of connection, even across time. Computer, she said softly, is the signal still active? Affirmative, the AI responded. Residual echoes continue to reflect through deep space frequencies. Can I send a message back? Message destination unknown, but you may transmit a broadcast, she smiled faintly. Then let's make the stars talk again. She leaned toward the microphone and spoke. Lira, Eli, if you can still hear us, your story changed the universe. We built bridges because of you. We learned that even across death, connection survives. Thank you for reminding us how to love. The system confirmed. Message transmitted. Far beyond the academy, somewhere in the ancient debris fields where Lira's station once burned, a faint glimmer of energy sparked for the first time in centuries. Static whispered through the void, then a sound, so faint it could be mistaken for memory. Hello? The stars blinked, and for a single moment the universe seemed to breathe. Maybe it was an echo. Maybe it was a miracle. But across endless silence it felt like 2 voices and laughing together again. If we're both trapped, her voice once said, maybe we can make the stars less lonely. And somehow they had. The end. Moral. Love needs no form, no body, no touch. Just 2 souls brave enough to speak, and stars kind enough to listen.